So this is actually pretty crazy. So I don't think this is 3 days in a row. I think it's more like 3 out of 4 days. Anna Kasparian of the Young Turks has been on Chris Cuomo's primetime. Now I want to give a shout out to Chris Cuomo because he keeps bringing on progressives, which is great. The more progressives that are on the mainstream media, the better. So this is really cool to see from Chris Cuomo. Now what we have here is there's some discussion about Donald Trump trying to boost up Bernie Sanders, as well as a comment from Hillary Clinton in which she says to choose the most electable candidate. Now, this is really funny because opposite Anna Kasparian is Karen Finney. Okay, her name is Karen, and obviously there's the the wine mom meme named Karen. This is an actual Karen. She was a political consultant for Hillary Clinton's 2016 campaign, so part of a losing campaign. This is going to be really interesting because they're going to get into a back and forth here. And what's also very interesting is that Chris Cuomo actually ends up triggering Karen a little bit. So go ahead and check this out. We're going to come back and talk about it.
What's going on in the Democratic Party and what the pressure points are here. Anna Kasparian and Karen Finney are here. First, Finney, do you think your party is susceptible to the president's ploy here? That this is anti-Bernie? I guess it's not anti-Warren or anti-Klobuchar, who are also senators, but that's why they're doing it. Any buy-in on that?
Well, I think you can extrapolate from what the president said. He doesn't think either Klobuchar or Warren can win. So thanks for that. Thanks for reminding us, Donald Trump, why we are here and why we need to defeat you. I don't think Democrats are going to be fooled by anything that Donald Trump has to say, and we'll see right past it.
All right, Anna, let's do a little cleanup work on this back and forth between Warren and Sanders. So Shumlin comes out and says that Bernie's attempt here is to Hillarize, I guess that's Hillary, Hillarize Warren. What do you take of this? What's the ultimate takeaway for you, and what this has meant?
I would like to know more about this sexist attack on Hillary Clinton. Seems like he has some issues with Hillary Clinton, and he's arguing that Bernie Sanders is trying to characterize Elizabeth Warren as Hillary Clinton, which he certainly has not done. And his piece also doesn't reference any evidence to back up the argument that he's making.
Well, Finney, go ahead.
Not a single one.
Well,
there's a lot of talk
Anna,
yeah.
hold on.
Well, let me finish my thought.
Go ahead.
My thought.
Anna,
okay?
finish the thought.
So
Karen, then you have it.
There's a lot of emphasis, a lot of, in my opinion, defamatory comments about how Bernie Sanders is allegedly running a dirty campaign. However, there isn't a single example of him talking about someone's character in a negative way or attacking someone's personality or doing any type of character assassination. All of his emphasis has been on policy, and we are in the middle of a primary. In a primary, you are supposed to emphasize the differences in policy proposals. And the mere fact that he has done that has gotten him in trouble for some reason, when in the past, actual dirty politics on the left have been dismissed.
Stop.
I mean,
Stop,
come
Anna.
on. Hillary Clinton released a picture of Barack Obama in 2008 where he's wearing a turban, and it was during his trip to Kenya. She purposely did that in an effort to paint him as a Muslim.
Bernie Sanders?
I bring that up because Bernie Sanders would never, ever do something like that. But he still gets characterized as someone who plays dirty politics. It's
all right,
disgusting.
Finney, counterpoint, then I have something else. Go ahead.
Okay, quickly. Here's what I love about all of this about Bernie. Let's remember, the Democrats actually did change the rules for Bernie so that he could run as a Democrat in 2016. And again, this time he's running as a Democrat and an independent. But here's what I think
what his labels are?
Anna.
Go ahead.
Yes,
Hold on.
yes.
So,
Go ahead.
Here's what I do think is relevant. I mean, clearly, Senator Warren, there was an exchange between Senator Warren and Senator Sanders after the debate in which she felt like he was calling her a liar. Now, that is part of their personal, relationship. They're going to have to figure that out. But this is politics, and I would say that there's a difference between, sure, how do we get to Medicare for all? And she has one timeline and he has another. But it is not the same thing to then say, basically calling her a liar. And then online we saw the Bernie bros attack in the same way they did in 2016, calling Warren a snake. That's where I think the Sanders campaign can show some leadership and say, you know what, guys, let's disagree on policy, but let's not go into calling each other names.
All right.
Are you arguing that Bernie Sanders is responsible for every random person who happens to be on social media? Because the fact of the matter is every single candidate has a base that's passionate. I know that I've personally been attacked by Tulsi Gabbard fans. I've been attacked by Andrew Yang fans. I've been attacked by Pete Buttigieg fans. And that's okay. That's part of the game. But I'm not going to hold those candidates responsible for the behavior of some of their supporters.
Let me close on this one. I get what your point is. The senator could come out and say something about it, but you're right. His base is very vociferous when it wants to be. It's not the only base that's like that. You guys are both in the minor leagues compared to me when it comes to getting attacked by people's bases. Let me ask you something else, though, that's a good way to end this. Hillary Clinton says, I hope you pick a winner. Now, one, I think that's a little ironic because I do think, I know, all due respect, Finney, I think there's an argument to be made that the party never fell in love with her and that she was the only person that Trump could have beaten, that you guys could have put up. But this time, when you look at who you have, do you have concern that you don't have someone that can definitely beat Trump?
No, and I'll tell you why. Number one, let's remember Hillary Clinton did beat Donald Trump by 3 million votes in the popular vote, granted not the Electoral College. But I don't think the Democrats are going to let that happen again. And I think one of the mistakes that was made, there's a whole host of them. We're not going to get into it here. But I think people took it for granted that Hillary was going to win. And I think we understand now, and people thought that there's no way Donald Trump would be the nominee on the Republican side. No way he's going to win. So I do think I learned in the last 3 to 4 years is you cannot take anything for granted when it comes to the future of our country. So I do believe that a majority of Americans believe that Donald Trump is a danger to this country and should not be in office. And I would vote for any one of the people who are nominated.
They're struggling to put food on the table for their children. They're struggling to pay their bills. Housing is unaffordable. That needs to be the focus, and I think that will help a Democrat win. That's the reason why Bernie Sanders is really rising in the polls. He is now in a statistical tie with Joe Biden.
Amen, amen, I say with one comma. You have to connect with that frustration and pain and convince people who went for Trump that you will deliver where he hasn't. And that's a tough passion bond. It's a tough trick, but you're right on the ground rules. Anna Kasparian, Karen Finney, thank you both, especially on a Friday night.
All right, so there's quite a bit to talk about in this one. So Karen Finney responds to Anna Kasparian bringing up the turban picture of Obama, who was posted by Hillary Clinton, and her response is, well, what does that have to do with Bernie Sanders? Well, it's drawing this sort of connection and looking back, this analogy and looking back at what the standards are for certain campaigns, because Pete Buttigieg can come out and separate himself from Bernie Sanders, etc., etc. Nobody cares. But if Bernie did even the little slightest itty bit, he was the devil, essentially, and he's going to give us Donald Trump. And when you go back and look at the 2008 primary, Obama was roasting Hillary Clinton for voting for the Iraq War, which now is, a bit taboo to do about Joe Biden. So it was a lot different back then than now, and she was trying to point that out, obviously. And Bernie Sanders, especially, it's lightened up a little bit now, but in the beginning of the primary, if you were to say literally anything negative about anybody else, not even negative, just to draw a line between himself and the other candidates, he was seen as like the devil who's going to bring back Donald Trump. And then what I found probably most hilarious was in response to Anna basically saying, "Hey, look, Bernie hasn't levied any negative attacks against any of the candidates." Her response was basically, well, he insinuated that she's a liar. Like, yeah, she made up a quote about him, and he's such a good dude, he didn't even, overtly verbatim say that Elizabeth Warren is a liar. He didn't even say that. What he said instead is, no, I never said that claim. And so, yes, the implication of that is Elizabeth Warren is a liar. Well, why is that? It's because Elizabeth Warren is a fucking liar and a snake. Okay, she's lied about everything under the sun. She lied about being Native American for decades. Put on her Texas State Bar form. I believe she used it also to get into her professorship at Harvard. Harvard touted her as a POC or WOC, POC professor at Harvard and the diversity. There's also something I just read that said that, she didn't hang out with any of the WOC, POC, Native American groups at Harvard, so let that in. But the idea that Bernie Sanders is doing he's levying negative attacks against other candidates because he pointed out a falsehood is absolute insanity. And I wish Anna had basically pressed her on that. Like, dude, she lied. He didn't even overtly say you're a liar, even though he could have and should have. He just said, no, I never said that. So I do wish that she had pressed her on that because that was quite criminal, I have to say. And then, the Bernie bros, which by the way is a meme, and there's no such thing as a Bernie bro, but that they're calling her a snake and stuff. Yeah, because she is a snake, okay? A snake is a snake, you know what I'm saying? And she is a snake, as I told you. She's lied about a whole host of things. Lied about being Native American. Lied about being fired because she was pregnant. Stolen valor of pretending to be a public school teacher when she was a public school teacher for 1 year in an emergency degree. Claimed that her dad was a janitor. Her sibling came out and said, no, that's not true. And there's a whole host of other things in addition to all of that. So, it's a ton of stuff that she has lied about. By the way, her Pow Wow Chow recipe book, I think it was completely plagiarized. She's the definition of a snake. Okay, let's keep it real. Now, another highlight, I would say probably the second high mark for this, was where Chris Cuomo actually triggers Karen Finney. I thought that was really hilarious because he basically says, there's an argument to be made that the Democratic Party didn't really like Hillary Clinton, but they ended up with her and they didn't fall in love with her. And I think that that's 100% right. She's like, what? And I genuinely don't even think she's heard of an argument like that before. I think she's so much in her Clintonite strategist bubble that I genuinely think she believes that the Democratic Party was in love with Hillary Clinton. The people in the Democratic Party were in love with Hillary Clinton. I think she genuinely believes that, which is absolutely hilarious to me. But it was so funny just watching her like, what? What are you talking about? This is on CNN? You're saying this? Oh my gosh, what's going on? And then the easily preemptible response, oh, but she won by 3 million votes in the popular vote. Yeah, she did, but what system elects our presidents? Is it the popular vote? No, it's not. It's the Electoral College. You know the candidate who defeated a Republican twice? 2 Republicans in 2 different election cycles with the Electoral College? Barack Obama. That's because A, Barack Obama ran as more progressive, and B, he was an actually good fucking campaigner, okay? Hillary Clinton was trash at campaigning. She was so entitled, so lazy, she didn't even step foot in Wisconsin. Bernie did that instead. Did it for her. But we don't determine elections right now, and it should be determined by popular vote, but that's not the rules that we're playing by. So whether you win or lose at this point, we all know what the rules are, okay? It's the Electoral College, okay? So you need to win the Electoral College to win the election. And she could have easily done that had she been a better campaigner, just, retaining the blue wall. I mean, she could have lost Florida and Ohio and still won the election, which is fucking insane. I don't know how any other Republicans ever going to win again. And then she ends off her speaking by saying, I think that basically any Democrat is going to be able to beat Trump. I'm not worried about the candidate from the Democratic Party to beat Trump because I believe that a majority of the American people know about the evil of Donald Trump. And it's like, that's how you're going to lose the general election against Donald Trump, is by pretending like it doesn't matter which candidate is in the election against Donald Trump. Because let me tell you this. There's one candidate who can defeat Donald Trump. That's Bernie Sanders. That's it. If it's Elizabeth Warren, she's going to get smashed, okay? She's tied in general election polling amongst independents, okay, at 35 apiece with Donald Trump. And if she repeats the gender pandering like she was doing in the debate, it's going to be a walk in the park for Donald Trump. If Joe Biden is the nominee, they're going to be having aneurysms on stage. Donald Trump's going to make fun of him for being like a creepy old guy. It's going to be a total disaster. But if Bernie Sanders is the nominee, Bernie is Donald Trump's kryptonite. He's going to destroy him just absolutely pile drive Donald Trump. So, again, we've got some really terrible analysis. And Orange Man bad is the worst possible thing you can do to win the election. Just talking about how bad Donald Trump is not going to incentivize anyone to go out to vote. You need to stand for positions. And as we know, Bernie Sanders is the candidate who stands for the issues. He actually stands for positions, right? He's championed issues. He's made issues mainstream, folks. So he's changed polling data on Medicare for All single-handedly, essentially. So don't listen to Clinton staffers, okay? I love it how we listen to losing campaigns, like a Clinton staffer. Like, no, you lost the campaign. There are people who are on, the Kerry campaign and the Clinton campaign. It's like, wow. And the Gore. It's like, wow, all you've done is lost elections so far. But Anna did a pretty good job here. And also shout out to Chris Cuomo, not only for platforming progressives, but also for triggering Karen Finney a little bit here.